Why is Brian Evans banned from being around the Indiana basketball team? We'll talk about it on this episode today. I'll tell you what, it has to do with this guy right here and how he's screwing Indiana basketball up from the inside out. We'll talk about it all on this episode today. You are not going to want to miss this. Let's get into it.
Pretty simple. I win.
After three on the way.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor. Thank you so much for being here, being part of this Indiana Hoosiers and Colts community on here. Today, we have a very, very serious episode to talk about. I was listening to the Hoosier Hysterics Podcast, and I broke down some of the clips. I got 8 clips to show you today, but the podcast is 2 hours and about 40 minutes long, and listen to the entire thing, broke out some clips from that, and there are a lot of juicy details in this podcast. Stories about Mike Woodson, stories about the team, tons of stories revealed by Brian Evans about Scott Dolson, who he is really good friends with, and we're going to talk about it all on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection today. So we are trying to get to 200 likes on this video today, so hit that subscribe button down below. This is a very important episode, so share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button. The video is brought to you by BetUS. Use my promo code Indiana125 and you'll save 125% on your first 3 deposits. Click the link in the description down below and save that money. Get some skin in the game. BetUS, thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. And also, all of the AdSense revenue on this channel from now until December 25th is going to T2T.org. Tunnel to Towers. Without the veterans, we are nothing. So we have a lot to talk about today. So without further ado, you subscribed, you did all that stuff. Now let's get into talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. All right, Brian Evans goes on the Hoosier Hysterics Podcast, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. What he revealed, stories that the Hoosier Hysterics revealed about Mike Woodson. We'll talk about a little bit of that, and we'll play the clips from Brian Evans talking about how he found out he was banned from the team by his friend Calbert Chaney, and how others like Todd Leary and Steve Risley and others maybe are banned from going around the team as well. I don't know who all is banned, but I'll tell you what, there's a banned list at Indiana basketball, and that's not good for anybody. Division and tribalism and all of this bullshit is not good for anybody. And Mike Woodson I want Mike Woodson fired. I want Mike Woodson fired today. I think everybody knows that. Mike Woodson is a horse's ass of a man. And we're going to get into talking about this right now. But first off, from this podcast, the first thing that I really did not know is we're going to talk about how it went down, how Mike Woodson really got fired. So what happened, what they revealed in this, and I would welcome all of you to go listen to the entire podcast if you want to hear the entire stories. But what basically happened was, you got to remember, Scott Dolson was in the beginning of his tenure as the athletic director. You know, Fred Glass hired Archie Miller, and Scott Dolson, this was kind of like his first go around. So he went out, he tried to get Brad Stevens, he made the offer, he had the bag of money, whatever it was, but he was deemed to be not effective by the powers that be at Indiana. And those powers that be being Quinn Buckner, Steve Ferguson, and the board of trustees. And Quinn Buckner is the head of the board of trustees. And if you don't know, Steve Ferguson is highly involved and is a father figure to Mike Woodson, has been a father figure and a mentor to Mike Woodson. If you don't know, Mike Woodson grew up in the bad part of Indianapolis and Broad Ripple back when, and Bob Knight really took him under his wing, brought him into Indiana University. That is one of the great things about Indiana basketball, is there are people like Steve Ferguson, but this guy did the wrong thing. These guys, they shunned the athletic director. Scott Dolson did not make the decision on who was going to come in as the Indiana basketball coach. Steve Ferguson and Quinn Buckner, who Quinn Buckner is best friends with Mike Woodson, and Steve Ferguson, who is like a father figure to Mike Woodson, they just ushered him in as the coach and just went behind the athletic director's back. The reason I am making this episode today is that Scott Dolson, we know now, is a good athletic director. He hired Curt Cignetti. He's done good work. I mean, you can see, and now I really have to apologize to Scott Dolson because I thought for years that you were the person behind hiring Mike Woodson and that Quinn Buckner just pulled your strings and made you do it. Now I know that you didn't want that at all. And we're going to get into the clips of what Brian Evans said and more stories that we will talk about. It's like they said on that podcast, these stories that are revealed about Mike Woodson, about him, drinking wine and eating pizza instead of going to see a recruit, about getting into a physical altercation with one of the assistant coaches at the Big Ten tournament, telling Parker Stewart off about his dad. I mean, the stories in there, all of those stories put together, like these guys said in the podcast, could be in a vacuum. You could say, yeah, it's just a one-off story. But when you add all these up, there are about 4 or 5 stories in there. It really is revealing about what is happening at Indiana basketball and what is happening to our team. Because this thing is broken from the inside out. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so now a lot of this really makes a lot of sense. So Scott Dolson had nothing to do with the hiring of Mike Woodson. And then he's left there to pick up the pieces because, look, he's the one getting all the blame for all this. Not Quinn Buckner, not Steve Ferguson. Look at these 2 rich assholes. They're sitting behind the scenes while they put Mike Woodson out there to really, get his ass ripped. And Scott Dolson, and these guys are the ones that put him up to it, knowing Mike Woodson never ever should have been considered for this job. Ever. Nobody in the country was looking to hire Mike Woodson to do anything. Not to work at Burger King, not to do this, not to coach anything. And then Indiana gives him a job making this kind of money. It's just the type of nepotism. Scott Dolson had a conversation with Brian Evans about who he was really talking about that was going to be on the team. And who he was really talking about was Thad Matta. Roll that clip, Hillbilly Monkey.
That's the background of how Woody got hired. Evans, any reaction to that or any thoughts you want to put out on that?
Well, I hope that people that listen don't think that you're just slinging that around. That's the truth. That is exactly what took place. You described it perfectly. I think that there's still people that think that, I still have people come up to me and be like, 3 or 4 years and be like, Bobby got his guy. Come on, man. Like Coach Knight influenced this. I mean, there's nothing further from the truth. That's not true. I wish all the fans really understood that it is what you just described. And it forced me to look up the definition of nepotism, which I have on my phone. Since I'm using my phone, I'm not going to go read it, but I kind of want to read it because it is exactly what took place. And it's a shame. And, Quinn and Steve decided that this was the guy. It was definitely not Scott's guy. But you're right. He can't come out and say it. He didn't kick and scream, but it was certainly not his first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice. And here we are. I mean, that's how it went down. And it's very unfortunate that the athletic director didn't have the latitude to make a hire. You look around and, why is that? Why is that? It's his job. And then I look at what he's done, with the Curt Cignetti hire. He earned it. Now he's earned it. Maybe they thought he hadn't earned it.
And then, let's face it, no place, I've been a manager. No place is somebody going to hire you as the general manager of a place and then hire somebody above you to watch you. That was just a bad idea. And I know Scott Dolson was put between a rock and a hard place, but this is what Brian Evans had to say about bringing Thad Matta in and then really how that went down with Woody, because we've never really heard all of this, where his office was and everything like that. Hillbilly Monkey, let's roll that clip.
Because I know that when I got a phone call, and Scott and I had conversations that, for the most part can be private before the hire was made. But the day that they announced the hiring of Mike Woodson, Scott called me and told me who was going to be hired. I had a gut feeling long before that's who was going to be the coach. Didn't like it at all, but I just had that feeling because the powers that be, that the people behind the scenes, that's what we were going to get. We were going to get the first former player, and that was going to be the guy. Thought it was a crazy thing to do. Scott knew that I thought that. I'd been clear. I had talked to him about it prior. He wanted to have that conversation. That was not because I was calling him. He was soliciting thoughts and opinions from me. And I was honest with him. That's why he called me, because he knew I would be. But he decorated this thing. When he called to tell me who they were getting ready to have a press conference with, he spent about 5 minutes trying to get me fired up and excited. And all he talked about was Thad Matta. He's going to be in the room. I mean, he's a 2-time National Coach of the Year, a 5 or 6-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. He's a great guy. He's going to be in the room. He's going to help with recruiting. He's going to help close, recruits. He'll be there all the time. He's going to, he knows the college game, and he's going to kind of shepherd Woody into college basketball. This is so good. This works so good. I mean, Scott, he was selling it. He was selling his ass off. Then he wasn't welcome around the program. Thad Matta was not welcome around the program. And,
So you can see it was just a disaster. It's just a joke from the very beginning. This is like watching like a dysfunctional family. This is not how companies that are billion-dollar companies, that's what Indiana basketball is. This is a travesty. This is the most important state institution in the state of Indiana. And the most important institution within that institution is Indiana basketball. That's why this is such a travesty, that this is being controlled by a few individuals that are just screwing this up. And they're really lining their pockets with money while they're doing that. It really makes me sick.
It really makes me sick, too. I mean, I'm sitting over here, poor, stupid. Nobody ever give me a job making money like that.
I know, right? I love Indiana basketball. Nobody gonna give me a job making money like that. Brian, he talks about the nepotism, and this is seriously what it is. Let's play the clip, and then we'll read the definition of what nepotism is, because I saw a ton of this when I worked in New York, and it just went within families, and it ruined companies, and I saw it a lot with people give a job to their son, and they own a company, or get their kid working on Wall Street, and they have no idea what they're doing. Nepotism, you got to really, really think, is this the right decision? Is this the right decision? You got to do that. And I don't think Steve Ferguson and Quinn Buckner, I don't think they really thought about that when they were bringing Mike Woodson in. I think they thought, this is what's good for us. This is what's good for us. I don't think they thought, is this good for Indiana basketball?
The nepotism thing is very, very real. It's bothersome to me, and it has been this whole time. How does that get uncovered? Why is that not being uncovered? Who needs to hear about that? Is the president? I mean, she's from out of state. Is it just like, oh, Quinn's the head of Quinn knows basketball, so let him make this decision. Oh, he hired his best buddy. Oh, okay, why was a red flag didn't pop up? They just decided that was okay. And somebody told me they're trying to get Woody was trying to hire Quinn's son recently. I mean,
yeah, I heard that too. That
this is becoming a complete joke, and that's why I don't think we're serious about having a good team, because you don't do those things. You can't be serious. I mean, I feel like John McEnroe. That would be, instead of "run it back" being the slogan for the team this year, I would suggest it should be "you can't be serious."
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And the nepotism just keeps going, because it was Quinn and Ferguson, obviously pushing for Woody. And then it's Woody getting Jim Todd and Randy Whitman and Armand Hill.
The next clip I'm going to play, I mean, this is where the real travesty lies. Now, Calbert Chaney and Brian Evans, they're still friends, and they still talk. They still text. He's going to reveal it here, but this is a little bit longer clip. It's like the 4-minute clip of what happened, how Brian Evans really found out that he was banned. I mean, imagine that. Brian Evans, who grew up a huge Indiana basketball fan, played 4 years at Indiana basketball. And look, I'm not gonna lie about it on here. I am a huge Brian Evans fan. Like, I had Brian Evans jersey when I was a kid. I had a Brian Evans haircut when I was a kid. And yeah, I'm a huge Brian Evans fan. So here is how Brian Evans found out that he was banned from being around the team. Roll that clip, Hillbilly Monkey.
What has been the fallout? Have you had any conversations with Calbert since the conversations that happened on JMV and our show last year?
Yeah. Well, we talked. I'm convinced he never listened to any of that, but he was, somebody told him to call me, or somebody told him to, tell me to shut up or something, because he sent me a little nasty gram of a text. And then we talked live, and he was upset, and I just kept encouraging him to go and listen. I said, I said a lot of stuff, and I said, I'm not pulling any of it back. I said, but I don't know what specifically you're angry with, because I said a ton of stuff. And I said, I was just honest. And if you guys don't like it, I don't, I really don't care. and he was harping on, I don't ever come to practice. I've never come to practice. And that's not a great argument for me, because I don't like watching the games. I don't know why in the hell I would want to go and watch a practice, right?
Yeah, you don't win banners for practice.
Right. Anyway, I just said, look, I don't think I need to go to practice to have an opinion of what's going on. I see what's going on. Don't treat me like I don't understand the game. I know the game. And this was on the heels of all the Xavier stuff, which I just felt like there was no discipline inside the program. And that's what that's part of what I had said on the radio. And he suggested I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's fine. I mean, he's living off the land. I mean, he's on the staff, and he's being loyal to the staff, and that's fine. Listen, it's not going to change history. We were teammates, and I admire the guy, and playing against him every day helped me a ton. I don't think, my career probably looks a lot different had I not got to practice with and play against and guard him every day. I mean, that's never going to go away. That's here to stay. So then fast forward from the conversation, he didn't call me back. I said, please just listen to what I said and call me back. And then we could argue about what I said that was wrong, because I felt pretty strongly that what I was saying was fair. And they don't like it, right? And he told me they don't mind being criticized. I shouldn't criticize them in a public forum. So I guess I'm supposed to go down and watch a practice and then rip them all to shreds for what they're doing at practice. That's all I could come up with, because it doesn't make any sense to me. So I waited a few months, let the dust settle. The season's over. It's shortly after you guys got canceled. You'd been in town in mid-May or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And maybe it was even later than that. I think I waited till like late June, July, when they were able to start working out as a team. When they started being able to practice a little bit, I reached out and I asked him, I said, you know what? You suggested when we talked that I need to come to practice, that I should come to practice. Now, keep in mind, I know what went on in your meeting, right? I know exactly that my name came up, and I'm the a-hole, rogue a-hole, that whatever they were saying about me. And Dolson doesn't stick up for me at all, and and that's fine. So I was aware of all that. I waited till like July, I think, and I reached out to Calvert and I said, hey, I'd love to, on second thought, I would like to know what goes on inside the program. I would like a closer look to see watch you guys work. When would be a good time for me to come down? Well, I'm not invited anymore. I found out today that I was officially banned, but I didn't know until today. But for sure, I was not, Calvert couldn't say, yeah, next week, I'm done. He has canceled me from this amazing opportunity to go watch him practice. And now I lost it. I lost that amazing opportunity, and I'm heartbroken.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we've been touching on here.
And he's not the only one. I mean, I'm not going to play the clip, but Todd Leary was on with Jim Coyle yesterday. He's banned from being around the team too. So there are countless people, ex-players of the team. Like, here's the thing. People will leave comments on this video. People will leave comments and they'll say, you're an asshole. You're the problem. It's your negativity. Residential anchor Aaron, you're the one that is like bringing the team down and not the powers that be. And to those people, I'll say, that's fine. Then you could just have that opinion for as long as you want. But the fact of the matter is, this is something that I deeply, deeply care about. And we need to mobilize our efforts and put pressure on the powers that be. Steve Ferguson, the board of trustees, Pam Whitten, that these people are ruining an Indiana institution from the inside out. Here's one more thing I want to reveal on here. Like, Mike Schumann, who writes for the Daily Hoosier, he writes an article about Randy Whitman going to watch the team and his, you know what? You could have revealed to us that Randy Whitman is on the payroll. He's making $130,000 a year. This guy from Hoosier Hysterics did a Freedom of Information Act, which I actually did one myself because I want to know all the salaries, because Galloway's getting $500,000, Leal's getting $400,000, Randy Whitman's getting $130,000, Ari, his right-hand man that he pays to come to meetings, he gets paid $100,000. One of Mike Woodson's buddies that falls asleep during meetings. All these people are on the payroll. They're all being paid to toe the line of Indiana basketball. Calbert Cheney, Jordan Halls, all of them have been involved. We need to put pressure on Indiana to change this. They are holding Indiana basketball hostage. And I am not joking about that at all. Our basketball team is being held hostage by these rich motherfuckers. And I'm just telling you, I hate rich motherfuckers like this that think that they're above the fray, that think that they're above the law. I'm going to tell you, I worked in New York City for years and saw it everywhere. It ruined people from the inside out. People that just think that like nothing else matters, work ethic, nothing else matters except for that they get what they want. That these rich...
Whoa, hold on there. You're going on some kind of tangent about these rich people.
I know, Hillbilly Monkey, hold me back, because you know what? I hate these type of people.
I hate these type of people too. These sons of bitches, they're always...
So Brian Evans here at the end of this, he talks a little bit about Scott Dolson, these last two clips. He's going to talk about, why he was doing this, why he was revealing these stories. And the stories are revealing. I will tell you, go on there and listen to some of the stories. I didn't want to play all those stories. I wanted to just pick out some of the best clips of Brian Evans on there. But it is, whoo! And thank you to Michael Kolak for sending me this, because this was a suggestion from one of the commenters on the show. So I get a lot of my ideas from stuff like that. So I appreciate you sending me that. But he talks about how Scott Dolson can't fire Mike Woodson. Hillbilly Monkey, let's roll that clip.
That's not happening here, guys. Our AD is not, he was a pro. Good news is this, you can bounce back. Not that Louisville's going to be amazing this year, but they were about as bad as you could be. They won like 6 games or something like that. And by the way, that was one of their best players. I mean, Woody never won a title. Kenny Payne won a title. He was a good player at Louisville. He was a pro player. They fired him after 2 years. Why did they fire him after 2 years? Because they saw that it wasn't working, and the AD had the control and the powers and made the change. That's not happening here, guys. Our AD is not, he cannot do that. And
Not
that,
yet.
I think,
Not
is a
yet.
huge problem here, is that the AD can't do it and wants to do it, can't do it. And
Can I tweak one thing you said? The AD has not been able to do it. I think that's going to change. I do.
And I think that's a part of why we are here today at this point in time, because I think up until the Bahamas, I felt, for me personally, it was we for the sake of the other fans, for the players who are there trying to win for this program, for the people on the staff who are really doing their absolute best to get us to be back to where we want to be.
So there you go. I mean, Brian Evans, who's close with Scott Dolson, just doesn't think he just doesn't want to stir the pot of the powers that be, the powers that are keeping Mike Woodson in that seat. And this is just really revealing. And this last clip, I mean, he talks about how easily we could turn this team around. We have talent. We have people. We did it with Curt Cignetti. It could easily be turned around. Let's play that last clip of Brian Evans and how he thinks Scott Dolson can make this move. And what we have to do as Indiana basketball fans, we have to put pressure on this organization. We have to as fans. Nobody's going to be here to save it. It's going to be up to us. It really is, because this thing is rotten from the inside out. Hillbilly Monkey, roll that clip.
I don't think he can do anything about it. I mean, he knows, I think that he knows all of these stories, and he probably has another dozen of his own.
Oh yeah.
And dozens.
And you went into the off season. I think it's very, very clear that he's not in the position to make a change, and very fearful to even go in and suggesting it. That's how bad the nepotism is. He's afraid to suggest it because it would have cost him I believe it would have cost him his job back in March, April, had he made a run for it and gone to the president and suggested a coaching change. I think he would have lost his job. Now it's different. I don't think that's the case anymore. And so as much as you say the public outcry needs to support Scott Dolson, he also needs to grow a pair. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, he just did something really amazing. We're sitting in here in the top 12. We're going to play in the playoffs. That's unbelievable in terms of turnaround. He should have more of a voice. I don't know if he will. He should.
Thank you so much for joining me. You know what? I love Indiana basketball, and I hate to see this fantastic thing that I have loved since the time I was born. All I remember is just loving to look at a red shirt that said Indiana on it with this IU sign. And that is something that will always be a love in my life from growing up in Indiana and loving Indiana basketball. But to see this, if anything else, if you want to leave a comment on this and say, you know what, you're just a hateful asshole, you know what, you can do that as well. You have to look at it this way. If at least of anything that you watch this video, why are these players banned from being around the team? You could have a difference of opinion. People at high levels of competition have difference of opinion all the time and get over it and just, somewhat just talk to each other. I ask you, listen to all the stories on there. One super revealing story. He didn't even remember the name of the recruit, Paducah, that went to Kansas. And when he met with the guy from Indiana Elite, who he doesn't even want to know his name, Mark Adams, he didn't remember his name. He didn't remember the recruit's name. There's so much that was revealed in this episode. We all deserve better as Indiana basketball fans, as people who love this institution. What's happening there right now, it's just downright sinister. And I feel sorry for the people on the inside that want to be a part of it, like Jordan Halls and Calbert Chaney, and even the players on the team. They don't even know what's going on there because this has been taken over by elite powers that be are ruining this old institution. Quinn Buckner, Mike Woodson, Steve Ferguson, and anybody else who is involved in this, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed of yourselves for dragging Indiana through the mud, for dragging this through the mud so that you can get rich, so that you can make a buck off of it.
Go fuck yourself.
All right, that's it, Hillbilly Monkey. I'm done. You got your segment coming up. What did you think about it?
Carved from the sands of the Wabash River and formed into a monkey lamp that's sold at Home Goods. It's the Hillbilly Monkey Perspective on Indiana Sports Connection. I love Brian Evans and I love all these stories and they're 100% true. I mean, you can't make up 6 or 7 stories like that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I got a high level of a bullshit gauge and it seemed like everything Brian and these guys are saying on there is genuine. They love Indiana basketball just like we do and we're tired of watching this shit get strung through the mud. I watch them play Miami. They give a half-ass every fucking time down the floor.
God, even the monkey is mad about it. We're just livid over here. All right. Well, the Big Ten season starts soon. I'll make a video probably talking about the Miami game that was last night. But we are in deep, deep doo-doo. And there's only one way out of it. And I just revealed it to you on this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.